Yo, it's Marcus Jordan, CEO at Trophy Room, and you're tuned in to Beyond the Smoke with Thomas Ward.
Today we welcome Marcus Jordan, the founder and CEO of Trophy Room, an elevated retail experience expanding the Jordan legacy, UCF hospitality management graduate, and the proclaimed drip of the family. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
I've been to your Trophy Room store that was in Disney, and I think it was great.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to take it up a notch, but it was a good start there.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
How did you decide to get into this?
Well, I mean,
why retail?
Retail specifically. I've been around sneakers and fashion my whole life. You know, I started getting Jordan elite packs, we call them, at an early age, and so I just always gravitated towards style and fashion and sneakers predominantly. And I've been in Orlando since 2009. I've always just kind of surveyed the market and kind of wanted to find sneakers here. Not like, not that I was buying, but,
sure.
I'm an enthusiast. I'd like to go see, other retailers, et cetera, et cetera. And so around 2014, I graduated from college in 13, took a year off, started working on my business in 14, and I just realized that there was like a void in the marketplace for sneaker stores here at that time. And so I put together a business plan, pitched it to my dad, pitched it to his team, and the first response I got back was, man, you've never had a job. Like, how are you going to open a business and you've never had a job before? Because all of my college career, I was playing basketball, and then my senior year, I gave my scholarship back and just focused on getting my degree. And so that was, a bump in the road for me. And so I said to them, I don't need a job. I kind of went back at them like, how am I going to work in a store selling Jordans? I am a Jordan. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? And so what I did was I teamed up with a mentor, almost like a buddy, like shadowing system of my mentor, James Whitner. And James kind of taught me the ropes and taught me, the ins and outs of Retail 101. And so eventually I kept pitching, kept answering all their questions, and got the green light. And so at that time, Disney was actually doing a renovation of downtown Disney, Disney Springs, et cetera, et cetera. And so the pieces just kind of fell in line. I pitched the concept to them. They loved it. And then ever since then, I just kind of started working on, how to get the thing open.
On that retail shop.
Oh, yeah.
Let me ask you a question going back, right? You're presenting to a team your idea,
yep.
Right? Because this is what entrepreneurs run into. Right now, even me, as I look for expansion, you have to present it to possible investors.
Yeah.
And how did you feel when these people told you no?
Well, I'm a very optimistic person, and I feel like I can convince anyone. I could sell, anything to anybody, right? And so when I got no, it wasn't like a damn, I got to stop, or they're not listening to me. I kind of took feedback and took notes from the conversation and figured out what they were really asking. And so with them saying like, I've never had a job before, that was me kind of saying, okay, I need to get some experience, right? And so, I just basically made a checklist of the things that they said why I couldn't open the store,
right.
And then eventually went through checking off each box, exactly, until I was like, well, what else? And there was nothing else,
Okay. So you necessarily didn't get a job in a retail establishment. You got a mentor that basically taught you the ropes.
Exactly. I wasn't necessarily getting a paycheck, but I was there on the ground floor, learning the ins and outs every day.
And that's great.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only way.
Exactly. At that time, I was upset, and I didn't get why they were saying that. But after I, kind of shadowed and interned a little bit, then I started to understand why they said that.
It's funny. It happened to me. My family goes from the ice cream business, distribution business, and then my dad gets bored and buys supermarkets.
Yeah.
Right? And I kept telling him, like, man, we need to buy this specific supermarket. And he said no like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
It's a piece of shit. I don't want to buy it. Gentleman that was the owner of the supermarket, his son studied with me. So I called his son and I said, hey, can I speak to your dad? I'd like to know what are the numbers to see if we could buy this. And I went and sat with the dad, and he went ahead after I left and called my dad and said, like, your son's here trying to buy the supermarket with no money. Can you kind of explain this to me?
Right.
And my dad proceeded to go to the store, fire me, and then went and bought the supermarket.
Well, just to try to teach you a lesson.
Yeah. And I have to tell you that I always ask how people feel, obviously, when you get a no, because, we're young. At that point, I was young. You were young, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's the best thing that could ever happen.
Yeah, I mean, I was under the impression like no matter what, even if they told me no, I was going to make it happen no matter what. And so, you know, it's similar circumstances. I didn't get necessarily fired or cut out of the will or anything, but I was under the, you know, same notion that, look, if you guys aren't going to invest, I'm going to find my own way to make it happen. And, you know, luckily I was able to convince them after a period of time.
So you opened Trophy Room what year? 16?
Yeah, we opened on May 23rd of 2016, which is a significant date for us because my jersey number in college was 5, and then my dad's obviously 23, so the date was 5
so it
23.
It made sense.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then what happens? The store starts selling really well.
The store was crazy, man. The store opening, we had people flying in from all over the place. People flew in from China,
that's crazy,
from Japan, New York, all over the place.
So awesome.
And we had lines, and you know, my landlord made us have like police with helicopters and police on horseback just because it was very, very crazy.
Whoa.
It took us. Funny story is like the POS system went down. At like we opened at 5:23 in the morning, and at like 5:20 the POS system went down. Like all the internet was down.
Holy
and so we were literally in there with Disney's team just freaking out. I'm at the register, and like at that time I wasn't the savviest person with the register, but I'm trying to fix it. Long story short, we ended up getting the store open like 10 minutes late.
Okay.
But we were there all day long. I think you know, it was like a 19-hour day or something like that for me and some of my staff. But it was very successful. I think we did over $1 million our first day. Yeah, which was crazy.
That's impressive, man.
I had people from Jordan Brand and Nike like that were like high-level management people in my stock room, like helping us with sales and transactions.
That's
just
awesome,
because
though.
It was so crazy. Yeah, it was. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it.
That's probably one of your best experiences in your life. I mean, something that you did.
Yeah. And
comes to life and successful.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it, was that like I took, you know, that the company from like inception to grand opening, and essentially we're kind of doing it again with the new location.
Why the new location downtown Orlando? Why you make that choice to, obviously you close that location.
Yeah.
You know, you consider that, like you said, maybe like a learning experience.
Yeah, it's a great learning experience. I mean, we closed just because we couldn't grow at a rate we wanted to grow. You know, I've got some pretty extensive growth plans for Trophy Room, and but it was a blessing to get the brand open there. We had, you know, international tourists and travelers coming to you know, shop with us and kind of build that brand recognition with us. So it was a valuable time spent at Disney, but I don't miss it at all. I'm excited to get this downtown location open. What we found was a lot of our customers were return local guests.
Okay.
And so, you know, that was a majority of our business. And so that's why I really wanted to kind of move it downtown and try to, you know, serve the local customers a little better.
The local customers.
Oh, yeah.
So let's take it back. You go to college, you do hospitality.
Yeah.
Where was your decision in doing hospitality?
Well, ultimately, I want to eventually get into boutique hotels.
Okay.
And so, you know, I felt like hospitality management, all the classes were very customer service based, very business oriented. And I felt like it would all be shit that I would use down the road. You know, I wasn't taking classes that I wouldn't use or implement. I actually took the beer and wine class over there a couple times. I actually failed it the first time I took it just because, I didn't know that there was a whole online portion of the class. So I was going to class, drinking and tasting all the beer and wine every day, and then not logging in online and doing all the extra coursework. So, yeah, so my in-person participation was great, but my online participation was terrible, and so I had to take it again. But yeah, I felt like all the classes at the hospitality management program were phenomenal.
Were good.
Yeah, for sure.
And you decided that you want to do it because you want to do boutique hotels.
Right.
And then did that change at that point when you decided to go into retail? I know you want to go probably into the boutique hotel eventually.
Yeah, I think it's just boutique hotels are something that I'm striving towards. Again, I think being in Orlando for so long, I just realized that there was a void for like true sneakerheads, like that true sneaker retail expression. And so in 2013, 2014, I started working on the concept, pitched it to Nike. They approved it. Funny story is shortly after, you know, when I was in my pitch meetings to Nike, they were like, well, why Orlando? You know, I've never, you know, they didn't have much representation here. I pitched to them, there's 60 million people coming to Orlando every year. There's a tremendous opportunity. And shortly after we opened, they actually ended up coming to the marketplace and opening a Jordan store and a Nike store. Well, they've been here Nike-wise with a couple of outlets, but they opened a Jordan store, and it was never communicated to me. And so I found out through like local blogs and local, press clippings that, Jordan is coming to the marketplace. And so originally I felt like stabbed in the back, like, hey, what the hell? Like, you guys told me why Orlando originally, but then 6 months later, you guys come into the marketplace. And they made sure, and this was always the plan, but they made sure that to separate the kind of products that we receive. And so they get more of the mass marketed products and we get more of the exclusive stuff. So
where is that?
That was kind of a compromise. I think it's in Florida Mall.
Oh, in the Florida Mall.
Yeah, I think it's in the Florida Mall.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's there. It's
there.
And it doesn't really compete with what we do. We're more on
Sure.
the ground floor, and we get a chance to kind of adapt with the landscape.
That business, specifically, I want to say the shoe business in terms of, collectible sneakers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When do you think that business changed? Because I mean, it was a transformation, right?
Yeah, I would say in the early 2000s, it really became that collectible, gotta see. Like, obviously in the early 90s, there was like the original initial rush, and all of the stuff my dad was doing on the court and all the other guys, as well. But at that time, everything was more accessible. You could walk into the store and grab the shoe off the wall. Yeah. It's probably like $95 at the time, or $65 for a Jordan 1 or something like that. And nowadays, I think early 2000, when it really started to get commercialized, was when the shift occurred and that hype really started to get driven.
The shift is crazy. I mean, I forget his name, but the guy I was watching the other day, a YouTube video that he's part of the Terror Squad, I think, and he has houses.
Yeah, Fat Joe and DJ Khaled, those guys. Yeah.
And all but it wasn't any of those. It was just like one of these, I think he's Major, whatever the hell.
Mayor. Yeah. I know.
And
Mayor.
that he has like 3 houses full of sneakers, and the guy was getting rid of all his collection. I'm like, holy shit.
He's one of the top dogs. He's got an extensive collection.
Yeah,
he's been doing it for decades.
For decades. But it was impressive just to see that he had kept these sneakers in perfect shape.
Yeah.
And people go there and buy some specific sneakers that don't exist and all that.
It's a whole ecosystem, man.
It's a whole ecosystem, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. You feel Orlando obviously is a store that you're going to practice what you want to do in the next markets, or?
Well, I feel like, Orlando's always going to be a hub for us. I feel like, what we were doing at Disney, it just wasn't, it didn't mesh, right? And so with this new location, we get a chance to kind of reset. We're introducing this concept called the Breakfast Club. And for us, the Breakfast Club is going to be flexible, programmable activation space within the store. And so we'll be able to program at any moment for panel discussions, workshops, art installations, different ways to kind of engage the community and bring them out on a local level. And so things like that, bringing in a new brand mix, some elevated brands, some more accessible brands, I think is really going to separate us from, more of those other boutiques that you might see. But in terms of growth, it's really a collaborative thing with Nike when it comes time for me to grow, figuring out what marketplaces kind of need that demand, kind of served, because they've got long-lasting relationships with some of these other retailers and vendors, and to go into a marketplace that's already being served, they kind of frown upon that, or I wouldn't get the special product that I need as a brand to kind of stand out. So
the good thing about it is that they're producing stuff that's specifically for Trophy Room? Yeah,
so we collaborate with them on a bunch of different stuff, but then at the same time, Nike categorizes their relationships with their retailers, and so there's different tiers, which based on what tier you're in, basically defines what access to product you get.
Cool.
And so we're at that top tier, obviously.
I would imagine.
Exactly. And so, when it comes to that level, then you kind of have to work with them in terms of your growth plans.
One of the things that I think is critical when you're expanding is information.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And when you have sales information of where your strongest stores are and everything, it gives you a leg up.
Yeah, it does. And so for us, when the time comes, we'll sit down and kind of evaluate what markets need that kind of jump start, I guess would say. And that's when we'll make the decision.
But I'm proud that you're choosing Orlando instead of a big city, because I think the big cities, serve that market, I think, a little bit better, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, you'll find more of a variety of boutiques in the major markets, in the major cities. But what I like is kind of being the big fish in the small pond. Like I said, we're mom and pop. It's only one store. I kind of call the shots, so to say. And so I like that flexibility of being able to kind of adapt and do different things, test things out before we kind of take them to scale.
That's important.
Yeah.
We'll go back to UCF, right? You're playing basketball. You're doing hospitality. At that time, obviously, you're focused on that portion of your, what you wanted to do. When does it come a change where you decide basketball is not for me?
Yeah.
And I'm going to follow through on my business plans?
Well, I always, growing up, it was basketball 24/7.
Sure.
Even through my first 3 years of college, I never thought like, all right, I want to open up a sneaker store. But the end of my junior year, going into my senior year, we had some recruiting issues, I guess, that was going on with the program. And so we were actually under a postseason ban going into my senior year. So even if we went undefeated, we weren't allowed to go to the NCAA tournament. And so just because some other stuff was going on. And so they actually took some scholarships back away from us, et cetera, et cetera. And so at that time, I could have either transferred to another school and played out my senior year. Maybe I might have had to sit a year, or I could have gotten a waiver to play right away. And it was just a bunch of other things happening behind the scenes that kind of just turned me off to NCAA basketball as a whole. And so what I did was I actually ended up giving my scholarship back to the program so that they could use it for the next year. And then I just focused up, got my degree that year, 2013. I wanted to take a year off because I never really had free time. When you're playing collegiate sports, it's a job 24/7, even through high school, middle school, et cetera. And so once I took that year off, I realized, like, damn, this is what free time feels like. Like, I can do literally anything that I want. And so I traveled a lot. I went to different stores, went to different boutiques and stuff. And then something just clicked, like, I would love to do this, travel to Fashion Week, travel to, all these different, shows, trade shows, and, have a store. And so from that point on, I just started working on it, developing it, like I said, pitching it to my dad and his team, and just kind of led to where I am right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know too much about the retail market, but let's think about the Off-White situation, right?
Yeah.
He creates this Off-White brand. It grows enormously.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something you think there's a possibility in the marketplace again?
So, yeah, I think with Off-White, they started from an apparel front first, and then essentially, started to wholesale to other accounts and other retailers, other brands, and then built their business. For us, we're kind of doing it the reverse way, where we have a physical location, and then we're trying to back in our apparel brands and our accessory brand, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, I do think there is a possibility for somebody else to strike it big, like Off-White, I would say. But for us, I think what we're trying to do is really just develop a consistent offering every season from the apparel side that can really just kind of speak to the brand ethos and things like that.
In consideration, when you look at the business portion of it, I think, right? All these people that have decided to build their brands and then go off and sell them, they end up buying them back. Like Diddy recently just bought his brand back because they couldn't execute it on it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that happens a lot. And you see now there's a big push in big brands buying little brands and trying to keep things moving forward. And so I'm interested to see what happens in the next few years, because a lot of those newer acquisitions have happened recently. So we'll see. Only time will tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Marcus. Marcus, do you have a routine? I mean, for me, 2022, I've been thinking a lot about routines. Basically what you do to take care of yourself mentally, physically, all that, because that's important, right? At the end of the day, you're trying to build a business. It takes a lot of your energy. You're trying to balance relationships with friends, family, all that.
100%. How
do you do it?
It's something that I'm still learning to do. I'd be lying to say I was an expert on it. But I've just got an internal motor that just never stops. And one of the things that I do, or I like to do, actually, is like my favorite time to do work is like 2:30 a.m. to like 8:30 a.m. Okay. And it's terrible. It's a bad habit, but literally, at that time of day, there's like zero distractions. I don't have the TV on. Maybe there'll be some music or something, but like that's when I really lock in on my laptop and I get a lot of my creative stuff done and all my emails and stuff done. So yeah, a lot of my vendors and people that I work with hate that I'm up at that time because I send a lot of emails from like 2:30
really?
a.m. to like 8 a.m. Yeah.
And their phone is ringing off the hook when they're sleeping.
Well, with this business, you know, we've got a lot of people that are based in Japan, based in Paris that we work with. And so, you know, it's 24/7 around the clock that, you know, you have to kind of be on your game. So I think that's part of my routine is just kind of working between those hours. And then, you know, I always take time to make sure that like my peace of mind is at ease. And so whether that's a vacation or you know, doing something on the weekend, I make sure to make time for myself. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, because a lot of people, especially us in the restaurant business, and I mean in retail is hard because it's a 365 day thing. You know, we try to obviously push the business and grow it and, you know, all these expansion plans, and then you leave your tank empty.
Exactly.
And then you have nothing to give,
you
know? So it's really important because the business is going to continue.
Yeah, well, the good thing for me is like I'm doing something that I love, you know what I'm saying? And when I was growing up, like I had the opportunities to go to Fashion Week and to go to all of these events, but I never wanted to be there solely off the laurels of being Michael Jordan's son, right? I wanted to be there with a purpose and be there working or something. And with Trophy Room now, that gives me an opportunity to be there for, you know, work
Trophy
purposes.
Room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For Trophy
for Marcus.
Room. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I always had this thing that when I was working in the supermarket business or I was working in the ice cream business, I was always working under my dad.
Yeah.
You know? And I always wanted something for myself. And it was hard because I went into the business opening a food truck.
Right.
And learning on YouTube how to cook.
Yeah, I feel you.
So I was trying to figure it out with no money. Right. And you know, like you said, you get mad because obviously you know that there's the resources and the potential to help you out.
Of course.
But when you get a no or when I got fired, you're like, fuck. Like,
well, what made you want to not work under your dad? What made you want to start your own thing?
I call it the rich kid syndrome. Okay. Because I wanted to play professional golf. Okay. That's what I wanted to do, right? And I was good.
If I have kids, I think I'm going to send my kids to play golf too.
To play golf, right?
I love golf.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I was placed in the best possible potential outcome, right? Because my dad moved me into Isleworth. Okay. The second year of college. Yep. I was surrounded by golfers. Tiger was there at the time, you know. All of these people were playing at high levels. So I was surrounded by it. Yeah. There's no better opportunity to put you in a place to execute what you want to do.
Exactly.
But I was the son of a wealthy guy. Yeah. So I lived that portion of it instead of focusing on what I wanted to do.
I got you.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think after, you know, the market went down in 07, 08, and I got hurt. Yeah. But I had that syndrome where I thought my dad would bail me out. Yeah. And I remember that call, man. I had to call him and I said, hey, dude, I don't have money to pay my cars, right? And he said, well, good luck. Yeah. Figure it out.
Exactly.
Man, I tell you, it was probably the scariest moment because, you know, you're stuck and you don't know anything because you haven't experienced life, you know, in the trenches.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
So I went and got a job at a golf course.
Okay.
Washing golf balls and parking cars. And I think that was the best experience. Like I said, that's why I'm intrigued that you went into the hospitality school, because I think, and I say it all the time, that people should be in the hospitality business to understand.
Yeah, I just felt like I've got a very relatable personality. I think when people get to know me, you know, the thing that I hear back is like, wow, you're so humble. You know, your parents did a good job raising you. And so for me, I've always liked that one-on-one interaction with people. And so from a customer service standpoint, I felt like they would give me tools, or at least the hospitality school would give me tools that I would use down the road.
Your mom is part Puerto Rican?
No, she's not actually. People say that. Exactly. You know what's funny is growing up in high school, I had offers every year to play on the Puerto Rican national basketball team because everybody assumed that my mom, because her name is Juanita, that she is Puerto Rican or from some Hispanic descent, but she's not.
She's not at all.
100% African American. Yeah,
that's cool.
She's just very light skinned, and you know her name, Juanita.
Everybody I would think. That sounds Puerto Rican.
No, don't feel bad. Everybody does. Since I was a little kid.
Yeah. So now going into, let's say, a smaller market, more local. Yeah. You're focused on doing activities and stuff like that. Do you think the store might have the same outcome? Like, you know, opening this store Will it sell $1 million the first day, right?
Well, I think we won't do $1 million the first day just because we launched that grand opening with an exclusive shoe.
Okay.
Not sure yet if we're gonna have something special. I don't want to give too much away for the grand opening, but yeah, I think we will have an initial surge. I think the first 30 to 45 days are going to be crazy, because of our rollout plan and how we intend to open the store, et cetera, et cetera.
Cool.
But I think we'll see a dip in foot traffic, but I think overall the business will perform much greater than where we were previously.
As guys that are in hospitality even and retail and everything, you have this sort of expectation, right? Mm-hmm. And you've created this expectation for you with one store. Mm-hmm. And as you go into the second store or third store, whatever, and you decide to do a different location, that business doesn't react the same way.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a learning curve just from being out of the mall atmosphere, because where we were, it was 100% a mall.
Sure.
And so with this being kind of like its own standalone, in a downtown location, I think there's definitely gonna be a learning curve. But I'm optimistic that we're gonna do some great things over there. Just because I think the products and their limited availability kind of speak for themselves. But we've also got some really cool things that are in store.
Let's go back to your mentor.
Yeah.
You still with him?
Oh yeah, all the time. I speak to his name is James Whitner. Yeah, I talk to him all the time.
Okay, and James was involved in Nike or was?
So James is a retail owner. He's got 3 concepts. He's got 16 stores across 3 concepts, and they're all over the U.S. But he's doing his thing right now for sure.
Okay. In that experience, I have mentors too that I consistently call people, ask them questions.
Yeah.
I sit a lot of I invite a lot of Darden people because we're in the perfect city to be able to captivate all those executives.
Yeah.
When you sit with him, do you ask him the ins and outs? What were the problems?
Yeah.
Because 16 stores gives you plenty of experience in the retail market.
No, I think I'm always learning from him. It's constant. And anytime I have like a question that I need an answer to, I call him right away, and he's always answering the phone. And it's funny. It's like oftentimes I learn things from him, but then at the same time I've taught him some things too.
Really?
Yeah, just throughout the course of our relationship. And again, I think my proximity to the Jordan and Nike business without necessarily being attached to it, like I don't work for them.
Sure.
Trophy Room is completely independent, but it's kind of synonymous as well. Just provides a unique perspective, and I think at times James has leaned on that, and I've kind of leaned on his expertise as well.
Right, and his stores are mostly in malls and that
he's got a different model. What he does now, he goes around and he actually buys a building, right? And he'll put his store in the ground floor of that building. And so he's got a few concepts. One is called A Ma Manière, which stands for My Way in French. And so with A Ma Manière, he's got A Ma Manière Living, which is the concept that I explained to you, where he bought a building, the ground floor is retail, and then there's 2 apartment units above it that he actually curates to be like in a streetwear kind of environment. And so you have to book it through the business, and then once you book it, they take a profile of like all your sizes, et cetera, et cetera. They'll put clothes in the closet of the apartments.
What?
They've got art and all this stuff that's for sale in the apartments, and as you take things, they just charge it to your room or your card on file, etc. And he's got another concept called A Ma Manière Eats, which I think is in Houston, where he kind of built like an upscale restaurant within the his store. And so he's doing different types of experiential retail things, and so that's a style that I'm really trying to emulate.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And also gives you the value of the real estate, which is the
most
absolutely
important thing. Exactly. Yeah. We'll get there. We're not there yet.
No,
but
sure,
that's part of the growth plan.
My mentor owns Golden Corrals.
Okay, yeah.
And he buys the real estate too. I mean, and
that's the way to go.
And that's the way to go, because even when we talk to McDonald's people, I have a friend that owns several McDonald's. The real estate portion of it is such a huge business for them.
It is.
And that's where they make all their money. Sure. You know what I mean? As an operator, you'll make good money. Don't get me wrong, but owning the real estate is where the value is long term.
Long term,
right?
For sure.
And the retail brand, obviously, Trophy Room. Maybe you decide that at one point you want to sell it. Who knows, right?
Yeah, I've talked about that. I don't know if I'll sell it. It depends, because it's so like tied to me and my family, and all of the Jordan legacy tie-ins with it. And we'll see. We'll see one day when the day comes. I'd rather at this time I'd rather just close it versus selling it. I can't see I can't see myself selling it. But the goal is eventually 10 to 15 boutiques, both domestically and internationally. All doing pretty well. But we'll get there.
And that's the funny part about it, right? People go into business for different reasons, and we all think that everybody just wants to make a boatload of money and sell.
Right.
And some people don't even want to sell.
Yeah, no, there was a boutique in Paris. I think it was called Colette. And they were really big. They were like a staple boutique for years. And it was family run. They a well-off family. I can't remember the name of the family who ran it. But they did the same thing. They just, wanted to move on to something else and just one day decided, all right, we're closing the doors. And it kind of left the whole community devastated. Yeah, they just closed, and just moved on. And so I don't want to, obviously use that as an example to copy, but it's something that's in my mind. I don't know. We'll see. I'm trying to get my first store open back again. I can't think about closing.
No.
I'm joking.
I know where you stand. I'm just intrigued because obviously for me, I wrote myself a check, right? And I carry that check. It's in the car, and I look at it whenever I'm a little bit discombobulated or I feel like life is shit right now. I look at the check and I go, this is what I'm working towards, right? You always have to keep a north to what you want, and for us, especially in the restaurant business, the last 2 years have been really rough. And it's been a really good learning experience to obviously not execute what I've done in the past because the business has changed so much.
I'm sure, yeah.
And I think in the retail market, Amazon is putting such a dent in what's going on that you have to kind of move your business into what you're doing, right? Into the experience, into being more community-based, and to obviously trying to figure out what products people really want and kind of make it an exclusive event.
Yeah, well, we had the, I don't want to say foresight, but we were lucky enough to actually close our doors out of Disney in June of 2019. So we shifted all of our business to just online only.
Okay.
And so we were kind of ahead of the curve because, fast forward to March of 2020, everything shut down. And, if you didn't have an online business, then you were scrambling to establish one because that was the only way to operate. And so we, having, operated online only, we kind of, I don't want to say we didn't feel the full brunt of the pandemic because we definitely felt it a little bit. But, us being online only allowed us to kind of, lower our overhead, not have to deal with some of those things that really
things,
that really hurt businesses, brick and mortar businesses throughout the pandemic. So, it was a blessing in disguise actually that we got out of Disney at the time that we did.
You did. Tendencies during the pandemic, though, have you noticed how people have changed their buying?
For us, it's different. Obviously on the apparel side, we've seen a little bit of a dip in apparel purchasing. But for footwear, it's just been sky high. Yeah, I mean. We'd be remiss to not, mention the elephant in the room that a lot of people buy Jordan product to then go on the internet and resell it and make a profit. And so during that pandemic time, while we were online, literally any shoe that we put online would go like that, And so, we were fortunate enough to, again, have like an established online business that kind of did really, really well throughout the pandemic.
You control your north, right, with Trophy Room, and then you basically count on your supplier to help you navigate through what you want to do and where you want to take the brand.
Correct.
Have you been involved, obviously, like, for example, right now, product availability for you possibly, is that a problem? Do you go through that issue? Because,
It's not necessarily a problem, but there have been delays, with some of these other smaller vendors in terms of them, hitting deadlines. Obviously, a lot of factories were closed and a lot of, delays with, overseas shipping and all of that stuff. And so it hasn't been too bad, but there's definitely been some changes and shifts in how things operate. But from a Trophy Room perspective, I do all of the buying. I'm super hands-on with it, and I try to curate our offering to be like things that I would wear personally.
Do you bring in a designer? Do you work with them?
So
how does that process go?
So when I'm working with Jordan Brand, they have a team of designers, and I'm working on behalf of Trophy Room as the head designer. And so it's a really collaborative process where we, talk things through, and then they make changes, et cetera, et cetera. But on the trophy room apparel side, we've actually launched a cut and sew business, which is trying to manufacture our own apparel from scratch.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I've got a team of partners with that. And so again, I'm kind of dictating to them what I would like to see. They make the changes. We go to sampling, and then we manufacture. So it's different depending on what I'm manufacturing. But yeah, I do operate as Trophy Room's kind of designer with some help.
That's good.
Yeah.
Right? You have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions in food.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
sure.
Right now I'm talking to a donut guy, and I don't know anything about donuts. And I'm intrigued because it's such a scientific thing.
I'm sure.
As you move forward, though, do you think the future of retail is moving towards where you're headed towards? Because, all these malls now, they're so compressed with the amount of people that want to go to the malls and are just buying online.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, I think a lot of people say retail is dead, and I don't think it's dead. I think it's evolved, right? And I think those that listen to the market and kind of do those experiential types of things, different types of activations, et cetera, create some sort of connection to their consumers. I think they'll be the ones that survive. Obviously Amazon is kind of in the online wave is kind of changing things, and so
crazy.
You got to be able to adapt.
Man, for us, Uber was the killer.
Yeah, I can imagine.
More than anything, Uber killed our labor market.
Really?
Yeah, because why would I go work for somebody that's screaming and hollering at me and it's a hot kitchen and all these other things,
right,
when I could get in my car, drive somebody around in my pajamas,
right,
and I could turn it off whenever I want.
Yeah, I could see how that would hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
So then at that point, I mean, you noticed it instantly.
What did you have to do?
Just adjust. I think in the last 2 years, I went from being super money focused, obviously, at results. And then I made a decision that it wasn't anything about the money anymore. And it was just basically about developing your people.
I got
right?
you. Yep.
And I think that shift happened at the right time, right? But I had to go through a lot of shit, right? To see it that way.
Yeah.
And the shift on that is that basically the business started going a different route, because as you develop people to be in positions that they don't consider that they had that opportunity.
Yeah, true.
They adjust and they help you take the business in the right direction.
100%. Your people are the most valuable asset.
That's it, man.
Exactly.
And that's the thing that I feel that maybe, and I asked you because I didn't study hospitality, right? I studied international business. Do you think they teach that in college, where they teach you that how do you develop people to be, because hospitality is all about people.
Yeah.
Right? We're not, I can give you a recipe.
Yeah.
But if the person doesn't execute it,
exactly,
you're in dead water. Right?
No, I felt like the program there was, really, at least my program was really oriented towards like management level. And so they definitely gave you some tools in terms of like how to manage a team, how to work with, unruly guests and customers, things like that. And so I'm happy with the tools that I kind of learned from that program. Definitely.
Would you have preferred to go out and work somewhere?
For me, I was playing basketball at the time for most of my time. And so, my internships I actually did with a buddy, where I was like working in a hotel lobby, like just bare minimum stuff to, try to get past the internship requirements and stuff. Yeah. So I had the opportunity, but I just didn't really take advantage of it at the time because I was a kid. I was like, look, I'm playing basketball. I'm tired, man. I don't want to go to this thing. But I ended up doing that.
Do you regret it?
No, I thought it was fun, man. I thought it was a good experience, and so it gave me some tools in terms of just working with customers for sure.
Cool. What is this live 23 Live?
So 23 Live, that was a program that Jordan Brand had instituted just throughout the holidays, where they asked me to host a series of shows where I kind of was the host, interviewing other Jordan Brand like affiliates throughout the series, kind of promoting some of their newer technology products, and then also just kind of interviewing the guests for the consumers on Nike. And so it was cool. I'm hopeful that we come back together for a second season or something like that.
You got to choose the people that were on live?
No, well, it was a collaborative thing. They kind of had it built out and asked me to host.
Okay.
And once I, was on board with it, I kind of helped them develop the script and kind of the talking points, the games we played, etc. And yeah, it was fun. I'm hopeful that they bring it back.
They bring it back?
Yeah, for sure.
You plan on doing something yourself?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of different cool things that we're trying to do in the new space. And so we're kind of still in the brainstorming phase. We actually just instituted a podcast. We're calling it BC23. But yeah, we other than that, we've got activations that we're going to be having in the store. We're doing like screen printing workshops and different types of customization, things like that. And then we plan on introducing like some art installations and just different activations and programs for our consumers to kind of come out and interact with.
Yeah, education brings in a lot of people because they're looking, so much has happened in the sense of people wanting to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And they need mentors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We have access to people that obviously want to help us and mentor us, but not everybody does.
Yeah, it's true.
I was talking about it earlier with the school, specifically, like just talking about how we can help people that are in the hospitality business that want to do their own restaurants, that want to do their own food trucks, to just help them, Because for me, when I opened my food truck, it was YouTube and, hitting the streets. Mm-hmm. And I learned the hard way and it sucked.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I remember after the food truck, when I decided to open Floyd's, I smoke a lot of cigars, and I would go to Corona in Sand Lake, and there was this gentleman that everybody would tell me, you got to talk to him.
Really?
You got to talk to him. Mm-hmm. And every time I would go talk to him, he would say hi, and I would say like, I'm opening a restaurant. He was like, oh yeah, that's exciting. Great.
Right.
And that was it. Okay?
Sure.
And I kind of, through the years had to show him that I wasn't a joke.
Yeah. Of course. There's always that proving period, I feel
there
like,
is.
Especially with like mentors and investors and stuff.
Yeah. And he was super, super hard to prove to him that I really was having a brand that would be recognized and, a good product and obviously a solid financial outlook to what I was doing.
Yeah.
And now he's become such a great resource.
Really?
He was a vice president of operations for Olive Garden, 750 restaurants. So
that's crazy.
He's very knowledgeable
Sure.
in how to operate people and operate, units,
Exactly.
which is the name of the game for us.
Those are the type of people you need to pick their brain, and just because there's a lot of valuable just information that gets left on the cutting room floor for them, but is like, gold for us.
That's right. So hotels, have you ever thought about getting into the restaurant business?
That's something that I did think about. My dad is obviously involved in the restaurant business. There's a few Michael Jordan steakhouses out there. Okay. He's got a restaurant in West Palm Beach called 1000 North as well, which does really well. And so, it's something that's there for me to do if there's
you
some
want
interest.
to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm interested in it, and I've had several conversations with the team that manages them and all that stuff. So it's a possibility. A friend of mine was actually just tossing out that I should try to rebrand and remodernize the Michael Jordan steakhouses to MJ steakhouses. Like
really?
Marcus Jordan.
Okay.
And so we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I think they're in major markets, right?
Yeah, there's a few. There's one in Chicago. There's one in Connecticut at the Mohegan Sun resort over there. And then, I think I can't remember all of them, but there's a few.
Sure, there's a few. Yeah, the restaurant business is a very, especially the steakhouse business. It's such an interesting business.
Well, what's your thought on all of these new membership restaurants? Because that's kind of the craze right now, is people paying whatever the cost is to be a member, but then you also pay for the food when you go to the restaurant.
Somebody was talking to me that invested sort of like that situation in Winter Park.
Yep.
They're doing, I think it's Ava or something like that you pay.
Yep.
Listen, I find that interesting because obviously it's great. You're getting money and, these people are paying money just to be members.
Yeah, just to be members, right.
And I think at the end of the day is a sense of belonging, right? I think a lot of guys and a lot of investors that I see talk to me about being in the restaurant business, they want something that they could call their own, right? And I think it's a very interesting way because at the end of the day, you have no skin in the game. You don't lose anything unless the restaurant goes and closes up.
Right.
And if you lost your $10,000, whatever, it's nothing.
Exactly.
But I don't know.
Do you think you'll see more restaurants doing this membership model, or do you think the old one just kind of is?
No, I think it's an interesting thing. I mean, Costco, right? I'm sorry to use the Costco thing, but
it's similar.
It's similar, right? Yeah. Basically, you know how much membership you're gonna get, basically going into any market. Mm-hmm. Does that make it interesting? Yeah, because you're going to invest $3 to $4 million in an opportunity real estate wise,
right? And
let's say that you put a number, right, and you get $500,000 in people that are putting money in because they want to be members. Mm-hmm. Man, I mean, it makes it a much easier sell to say, hey, I know that when I go to, let's say I open a Pig Floyd's in West Palm Beach, I'm going to have 100 members,
right?
And that amount of money is what I'm going to use to open the restaurant.
Exactly. You get that up front. Yeah.
You get that up front. Yeah. It's a good deal.
You're right.
Now, the issue is you're going to have 100 of these people going, oh, I own part of that restaurant.
Exactly.
And
what am I getting? What's in it for me?
Not what's in it. Like, how do you build value on that?
Exactly.
And will these people, once you decide at one point that you're going to sell, how does that work?
How does that work? Yeah.
Right?
No, it's interesting. It's something that I've just noticed in the restaurant landscape, and so I just wanted to, get your insights on it.
I think the most important thing and the hardest thing in the restaurant business is investment. Okay, I think a lot of people are very scared of being in the restaurant business because we've been portrayed in the media as, people open a restaurant and they're going to close within a year.
Right.
Not necessarily. Right? Yeah. I think it's a lot of people that go out there that somebody told them that they have this fantastic lasagna recipe, mm-hmm. and they think they could get into a restaurant for $100,000 or $200,000, and then all of a sudden they're down the street $1 million into it.
Exactly.
And now they got to operate it.
For sure.
And the long-term commitments of when you're signing a lease, it's 5 to 10 years
at least,
right?
Minimum. Oh yeah.
So then my thing is, you're an entrepreneur till that day. The next 5 years, you're an operator.
Yeah, for sure.
And this shit's no fun because it's an everyday affair. It's a hands-on. Yep. You're dealing with people all times. Like, like you say, 2:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock. Yep. I mean, sometimes I get home at night and I don't want to talk to my girlfriend. I don't want to talk to a human.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Like, please don't text me. Don't write me. I'm tired. I don't want to hear another voice.
I know that feeling.
Right?
I know that feeling.
And so I think it's important that people realize, when you're doing these kind of commitments, it's a long-term commitment. You can't move. You can't leave Orlando if you're deciding to develop one restaurant unless you're going to open another one.
Exactly.
But I think people get caught up in that.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that, a lot of people say, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to work a 9 to 5. And then you start your own business and you work longer than 9 to 5, And so I think you got to love what you do. That's at the root of it. You got to love what you do.
You're right to a certain degree. You got to love it. But I think a lot of people fall into different things that not necessarily are a passion project in their life.
Yeah.
They just see that there's an opportunity of making money and then they fall into that trap, right? When I was in other businesses, real estate, supermarket, whatever, I didn't love those businesses.
Right.
And then when I fall into the restaurant business, I tell you the truth, the first 2 years, you would tell me, like, you're going to be in the restaurant business for the rest of your life. I'd be like, yo, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
This is nuts.
Right.
I was selling Krispy Kreme burgers out of a truck.
Right.
There's a certain degree of humility that happened during that time, you go, and I say this openly, I lived in Isleworth. I was living a big life. I had a rich dad, all these things. You look at that life and then you go, fuck, I'm selling burgers out of a food truck. Mm-hmm. Whoa, where my life has taken me.
Right.
And then you try to figure out, how am I going to get out of this?
Exactly.
And how I'm going to build on this.
Right.
And I think that's probably the most fulfilling thing that has ever happened in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you saw, like, you were in a shitty position. I yesterday I saw a gentleman. When I had the food truck, one time the engine blew, and I had no more money. And I remember sitting in a Taco Bell just fucking crying.
Really?
Yeah, because I had no money. I was like, man, the engine's gone. It's gonna cost me $2 or $3 grand to fix this shit. I have no money. My partner at that time was like, I don't know what we're gonna do because we got no money.
Yeah.
And I remember that he called somebody, and this guy loaned us $5,000.
Shit.
Okay, I don't know this guy.
Yeah.
At that point. And yesterday I saw him. He sells cars. He sells Porsche, right? He sells. At that time he was selling Porsche. This was 2011. Yeah. And I called him up and I said, hey man, I know you did a deal with Nils for this $5 grand that you lend me, but I need to know this deal because I don't know how, like, what repayment terms, how did it work out, interest wise, all that shit. Right. And I would go pay him every month at Porsche. Yeah. I would go take him the money every month. And I was asking him yesterday, like, why the fuck did you do that? Mm-hmm. And he says, I don't know.
Really?
I don't even know why I gave you $5 grand. I knew there was another guy involved in it that our friend Albin had said that you were good for the money, and I just lent it.
That's awesome. That's a lifeline.
That's a lifeline, right? And the same with my partner at the time. He sold his car and gave me the money to open the food truck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see that perspective because even my investors, for example, in Lake Nona, I didn't seek out the money. They came to me and interested in investing in the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately with COVID, we lost that unit. Yeah. But I placed them in the new one that I'm going to build in Lee Road. That's awesome. So, when you build that trust, I think more importantly in business, trust is such a huge deal.
Yeah, and it's easy to break and hard to find also, And so when you get those people that you can trust or that, click with you, you got to keep them around.
You got to keep them around.
Yeah, definitely.
So the last question is, how do you separate the family from your business, right? Because I had a tough time doing that. My family is still pretty involved. They help me out and they're great advisors. But for you, how do you go about that?
Early on, it was tough just because, again, it was a lot of learning for me. And so I always was kind of tugging on my dad's coattail, like, hey, what do you think about this? What, this just happened. What are your thoughts on that? But again, as I got the experience, I kind of realized, like, hey, look, this is your shit. You're the decision maker. You got to make it work, and it all kind of falls on you if it doesn't. And so just kind of, over time, I started to take more of the reins myself and just not necessarily, because I was always the decision maker, but I guess just having the confidence to pull the trigger, I guess, to say on some of those key decisions, because at times, early on, I would procrastinate and think like, oh, I'm, even like from a design perspective, like sitting there waiting for inspiration, right? Is always the thing is like, oh, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to put it off because I'm not inspired now. And just one day it's going to click. And for me, I've actually found like that's just a bunch of bullshit. Exactly. Like you're just as creative no matter if you go to start it now or, put it off for 2 weeks. And so that was something that I really, learned is just kind of like stop putting things off, attack everything, and don't be afraid to ask questions, because I feel like we're all always just learning and figuring things out, Right. And so early on, I was very, question heavy, and I would ask questions to Disney. I would ask questions to everybody. Why is it this way? Why can't it be that way? Or something like that. And so I felt like that is a tool that kind of just helped me, be able to build the foundation on my own.
Do you go back to your dad or mom for advice still to this day?
Yeah, I mean, if there's something that's happening that, I feel like I want their input on, they're always there, 24/7 to answer something. With my dad, it's been a little more of, he's got a team, right? And so he's instituted this family office to kind of help me and my siblings to kind of navigate the world of business and investing as well. So I'm more so working with them directly today versus calling my dad and saying, hey, Dad, this happened. These guys screwed me. I need this, and this. Yeah. Now everything kind of funnels up through the family office now.
Yeah, I get it. It's tough. I mean, I go back to my dad for certain things, but obviously you want to make the decisions and live with the decisions that you make for yourself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Give me an oh shit moment in your life that you said, holy shit, I did this. This is me.
I think, the grand opening day of 2016 at Disney, I think it was, obviously we knew that we were building something special, but when we had, people flying in from China and all over the world, it was kind of like, holy shit, like what's going on, and then, it was one of the longest days of my life. But then at the end of the day, when we checked the registers and the POS and it said $1 million, that was like
fulfilling
holy shit.
As fuck.
Yeah, it was like where do we go next? And so I think if out of all the oh shit moments, that's probably at the top right now.
Dude, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, man.
I want to say that I'm proud of you for separating and becoming yourself.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thanks. I appreciate it, man.
For sure, man. Appreciate you.
We could be here all day. Until you subscribe, I'm not going away.